It appears that the position on state police has been popularly affirmed by governors in the different states of the Federation. So yesterday, we saw the National Economic Council meeting, and we understand that all the 36 states have submitted their positions on state police matter, with a majority agreeing on the need for state-controlled policing. The governor of Kaduna State, Governor Sani, was the one who revealed this to State House correspondents after the 147th meeting of the National Economic Council at the Aso Rock Villa in Abuja. Let me allow you to remind you of what the governor of Kaduna State said yesterday.
Here that from what is available, virtually most of the states are in agreement with the establishment of state police in Nigeria. But today the council have decided to step down the discussion until the next council meeting, because we need to come up with a report from the secretariat. And after the report, there will be deliberation in the next NEC meeting that is likely taking place in January. And many states are in agreement for the establishment of state police, considering the fact that virtually every state have their peculiarity in terms of the problem we're having of insecurity in our own states. And knowing fully that we have a lot of ungoverned space in Nigeria, and knowing fully also that we have a lot of deficit in terms of number of boots on ground, looking at the fact that a lot of security agencies, the police, the army, and other relevant security agencies have no personnel to cover all the ungoverned space.
I've got to join me now to speak more on what he said yesterday. That's just about 1 minute or so of what he said. And let's get some more expansive conversation on the matter. I'm being joined by the governor of Kaduna State, Senator Sani, who is live for us from Kaduna State. It's good to have you join us tonight. And thank you so much indeed, Your Excellency. For a lot of us who have followed the debate on the structure of our country, issues of security and how it should be handled at the local level and at the state level. Now, getting to the point where most of the state governors have now agreed to backing state police looks like a cherry news and something that will get a lot of us talking in the coming days. So let's understand. 36 state governors have submitted, or states have submitted their position, but we understand that the FCT hasn't. Bring us up to speed with the positions or what has happened in terms of the position and the submission of the federating units and the FCT.
Thank you very much for having me. Of course, yesterday at the NEC meeting, that we to announce the position of the NEC. You could recall that the issue of state police was part of the conversation. At the level of NEC, I can say that we've been discussing the issue of state police in the last almost 4 to 5 months. And of course, within that time, states were given opportunities to submit their own position on the establishment of state police in Nigeria. And of course, as of last week, all the 36 states submitted their own position. And I can say that even before the submission, we had deliberation at the level of our meetings. And that was the reason why yesterday I made it clear that virtually all the 36 state governors made their submission, and we are all in agreement. I can say that for the establishment of state police, that was a position even before the submission, but the submission is clear. But of course, yesterday, we stepped down the conversation or the discussion on the issue of the state police simply because there was supposed to be a report from the secretary that will itemize and come up with the summary of the reports or the submission of the states. As you are aware that we made a separate submission because, like from Kaduna, we made a submission and we made it clear that we are in agreement with the submission of state police, but we also came up with ideas and how we will approach the establishment of state police in Nigeria. And of course, that was what happened. And I can say here, in the next NEC meeting, we will certainly debate and discuss the issue elaborately.
So that is good news in the sense that There are those who have clamored and debated that the federative unit, just like we see in some other federal states in the globe, are also having to take control on policing in their territory. But what about the FCT? There are no positions submitted by the FCT. Is that deliberate, or is it that the FCT has delayed in submission?
Let me tell you this, maybe because you see a lot of people that were either supporting or opposing the state police establishment were a bit ignorant of the process. I'm happy in the studio there is a friend of mine, Chief Premier Falana, who's a lawyer and established a very prominent lawyer in Nigeria. Of course, the art of lawmaking is very clear. You see, the why the state governors are very important is simply because establishment of state police is beyond just discussion at the National Assembly level. Recall, in the 9th Senate, I sponsored the bill for the creation of state police in Nigeria. That was in the 9th Senate. But of course, it did not see the light of the day, simply because after a conversation at that level, we had a conference committee between the Senate and the House of Reps, and it did not survive the conference committee because we did the voting, because it has to go through a lot of processes. And of course, after the assembly came up with, there's a national assembly, of course, the state governors will have a role to play because it has to go to the state 36 state of the state assemblies of the 36 states. They must also have their own say. Establishment of state police means amendment of the constitution to create state police, because you have to also abolish the federal police post to create state police, and also look at the police service commission, that's the federal, and create state police service commission. So all this are the process of creating or establishment of state police. So the position of the state governors is very important, because when you're talking about the buy-in of the state assemblies, you don't have state assemblies at the level of FCT. That is a position people have to understand. Of course, so state, FCT do not make a submission, but what is more important are the state governments, where you have 36 state assemblies that will also have an input. We must have to thought of the 36 state assemblies to accept it or to have the buy-in of whatever position that came up from the National Assembly. So this is the process. Now it's a step forward, but the NEC alone cannot establish state police. It has to go back to the And like I said, if you follow what's happening at the level of the National Assembly, just a month ago, the House of Reps started this conversation, and I can say that at the House of Reps, majority of the members were in agreement, and that was the reason why they started the conversation. The Senate, I don't know whether they have started or not, but the 9th Assembly, we at the level of the Senate were in agreement, but we lost it at the level of conference committee. That was why it was not part of the bills that were taken for constitutional amendment at the state level. And of course, you will agree with me, some issues were raised, and that was the reason why some aspects of the constitution were amended. But the state police did not survive the conference committee. So that was the reason why we insisted that we have to know the position of every state, so that when the National Assembly come with their own position, it will be very, very easy for them to push it to the state assemblies. And the governors and the members of the state assembly will certainly have to agree, because we need to thought. That's the position.
All right. And I'd like to ask you pointed questions here as regarding the functionality of a state policing. In some places they call provincial, regional, whichever name that is being called. Now, it's been tagged state police, and there are several meanings or how the structure can work. Those who have debated against state police have had major two concerns. One being that the state governors might get to a point in time that they might use it against political opponent, and it might become a tool of political witch hunt. Now, secondly, there are those who believe that some of the states of the Federation are not financially viable. It means then that if you are setting up a state police, you have to worry about, clothing them in terms of uniform, equipping them in terms of weapons. You also give them logistics, that of vehicles, and moving around, and also sustaining and maintaining their offices. These are major debates. But I'd like to ask you a pointed question. As a governor that I've had one-on-one, and you've come face to face with security challenge in your state, give us an understanding how urgent or how functional a state police will be in helping you as a governor to govern your territory.
So let me first address your own concern, which is not a concern per se. Maybe it's a concern of a lot of people that I just mentioned. They're looking at this from political point of view. They don't want to look at it holistically. When I sponsored the bill for the creation of state police in the 9th Senate, I was in a governor. A lot of people came to me and said, governors will use it for their political gain, or maybe they will use it to abuse it by now using the state police against their opponents. But let me say this thing clear to you. Making law, because a lot of people, like I said again, they don't know the art of law making. You, at the level of constitutional amendment, we have responsibility, not we, the governors, but the people that will be involved in the lawmaking, or the stakeholders, the people that are experts that will be called during the public hearing at both the zonal level, at the National Assembly level, and at the state level, that will come together and agree on what the state police should be. When we're sponsoring the bill, I made it clear that in case of any conflict, the federal police force will take precedence, particularly on issues that have to do with politics. So when you do that, it happens in other countries. There are some developed societies, some countries that have police both at the federal and the state level. We must move on. We cannot sit down and be guessing what will happen. That is number one. Number two, when you look at this issue critically, talking about the funding, only 6 months ago, as a state governor, I bought 150 patrol vehicles for the federal security agencies. If I have state police, I will give them those 150 vehicles. It is from our budget. That is number one. Number two, when you look at some states, is it those that have a motokun or some governors at the level of northern states where they have vigilance services? Some have 7,000, some have 4,000. But the problem is, look, whether it is a motokun, whether it is a vigilance services in Katsina, whether in Kaduna, whether in Sokoto, let me tell you the limitation. You have to look at Firearms Act that we have in Nigeria today. It's also a constitutional issue. No vigilance service, no motokun in Nigeria will have the constitutional power to hold AK-47. Only president can give you license to hold AK-47. And when you send those people to go and confront the bandits, you know you are sending them to be killed. That is number one. Number two, when you have police, state police, you will have solved the problem of intelligence gathering and sharing, because most of those people are within the communities. They know the terrain, they know the area, and already they have constitutional responsibility to be able to hold firearms, to protect the community, to protect the people. And that is why we believe we need state police. And the third point I'm trying to make, look at the population of Nigeria. We have a population of about 230 million people. And the numbers we have in terms of personnel, the entire military in Nigeria, whether it's Air Force, Navy, and the Army put together, ask anyone that knows these things, there are not more than 250,000. If you look at the number of police we have in Nigeria, all the police personnel in the whole of Nigeria, the federal police, put all of them together, they are not up to 400,000. They are about 373,000. The last time I checked, about a few months ago. Put the two together, we have less than 650,000 security personnel, police and the military. And we're talking about a country of 230 million people. That is why we have a lot of ungoverned space in Nigeria. And when we're talking about addressing this problem, but we have so many problems because we have lack of boots on ground. We don't have the boots on ground, and we cannot cover those areas. That is the reason why some of us believe if we want to address this problem, there must be establishment of state police in Nigeria. So the issue of whether governors will use them against their opponents is something that can only happen if the National Assembly and those people that will craft this issue, the law or the act, gives the state police all the powers to do that. The art of lawmaking is when people sit down together and look at the advantages and disadvantages of some of the clauses. Look at it. That is the reason why a lot of people that always come out to talk about a process will always say it's simply because most of them are ignorant of the process, or maybe they want to use politics to just confuse Nigerians or make it difficult for some people to understand.
Governor Sani, if you have your way today, state police should have started yesterday. And you think that it can effectively help you police your state. Is that your position as a person? Because as a lawmaker, you pushed for it, but it never happened.
Look, if state police was created 3 years ago, when I sponsored that bill, today we would not have been having this kind of problems. Not only in Kano State, in many states in this country. But remember, when I sponsored the bill, some governors, particularly from the northern Nigeria, were opposed to it. Only the southern governors then were supporting the creation of state police. I remember vividly. But today I'm happy. Many governors are now in support because they know there is no way they can address the problem of insecurity in their own states except we all come together to support the establishment of state police. It's something some of us have really fought for this democracy, and we know we have to run our country as it's supposed to be. And the only way to do it is to allow most of these reforms to take place. It's very important. We cannot be living in fear simply because...
The worry, Governor Sani, is that if you have someone that you don't like his face, would you not use your own police if it's within your capacity to go after that kind of person? That is the worry. That's why some Nigerians fear that if this gets into the hand of governors, they might use it against a political opponent. How do you are you able to let Nigerians come to some kind of assurance that this may not be misused, since you have put together a bill like this before?
Let me tell you, I made it clear. Look, when you're putting a bill, I'm happy that institutional life. You see, when we decided to say let's sponsor this bill for the creation of state police, we made it clear. You can only abuse that if the people that crafted that law allows that to happen. You have to look at the law. And like I said, we made it clear at that time that state police should not be allowed to take a lot of responsibilities when it comes to issue political activities. Where that happened, the federal police force should take precedence. That's what happened in other countries around the world. They should focus on crime prevention, crimes issues. That's what it's supposed to be. Political issues, you can limit their involvement. And that can only happen during the crafting of the law. That is the reason why that cannot happen except you look at it. All right.
Senator Sani, so quickly, so this debate will be postponed to January before you revisit it at NEC. Is that the situation?
Yes, the NEC will discuss it, but I can tell you there's not much. It's just discuss it and look at the popularity of every state, and I look at how we can be able to bring out the final report. But I don't think there's any major problem. But we debate at the NEC meeting. Then after that, certainly we need to also make submission to the National Assembly. That is a process. The National Assembly certainly will be the ones to now initiate this process. But ours is just our own submission, our position, but we have no powers to be the one to lead on this. It's the National Assembly that have to be the one to lead on the creation of state policy in Nigeria.
We look forward to how that will happen, but sincere thanks, Senator Sani, Governor of Kaduna State. Thank you so much for giving us more insight on the position of NEC and the governors in relation to state police. Thank you so much indeed, as always, for giving us time to talk to you.
Thank you for having me, Sean. Thank you.